We see them in black and white, larger-than-life, icons of an era we call golden. Their faces, etched into the very fabric of cinematic history, seem to represent a simpler, more glamorous time. But what if I told you that behind the meticulously crafted studio image, behind the million-dollar smiles and the adoring crowds, lies a darkness, a past not so polished, not so perfect. Tonight, we're pulling back the velvet curtain to expose the shocking untold stories of Hollywood's most beloved legends. We're not talking about on-screen drama, we're talking about real life, real crimes, and real consequences. Before they were stars, before their names were immortalized in cement on Hollywood Boulevard, they were just people who made mistakes. Prepare yourselves because the names we're about to reveal are not the usual suspects. When you think of Clark Gable, what comes to mind? That roguish grin, the commanding presence that earned him the undisputed title, the King of Hollywood? He was the epitome of masculine charm, but the rugged confidence he projected on screen was forged in a crucible of hardship. Long before he uttered, "Frankly, my dear," he was just a boy from Ohio, desperate to escape manual labor. He drifted from grueling jobs, a tire factory worker, a lumberjack, an oil field roughneck. Drawn to traveling troops, he sought escape, reinvention, and a glimmer of the spotlight. In winter of 1922 in Portland, Oregon, he was broke, hungry, and far from home. It was here the future king made a decision that would haunt him. He was arrested for auto theft. The details are murky, a charge the studios later tried to erase. But the charge was real. Facing the possibility of prison time, Gable's dream could have ended behind bars. Accounts suggest a benefactor stepped in, or a lenient judge saw potential. The charges were quietly handled. The studio worked to bury his past. The official narrative became a hard-working man who pulled himself up. He carried the secret, a reminder of poverty and desperation beneath the veneer of invincibility. That hunger and fear became part of his performances, giving his roles a rugged authenticity. Remember the young man in Portland when you see that confident smirk. The desperation that nearly cost him everything was also the drive that led to his triumph. He didn't just become a star, he conquered a past that could have consumed him. Next, a swashbuckler whose life off-screen was as daring as his roles. If Clark Gable was the king, then Errol Flynn was the dashing, reckless prince. On screen, he was the charming rogue who could steal a lady's heart with a single glance. Born in Tasmania, Flynn's rebellious streak manifested early. Expelled from virtually every school he attended, he became a restless adventurer across the South Pacific, gold prospector, plantation manager by his own account, even a slave recruiter. Trouble followed. He was accused of theft in New Guinea, landing him in hot water with local authorities. Like much of Flynn's life, the facts blur with his own legendary storytelling. When he arrived in Hollywood, he brought untamable energy. Studios loved his athleticism but soon had a tiger by the tail. His life blurred into lavish parties, notorious womanizing, and barroom brawls. At the height of fame, Flynn was accused in 1942 of statutory rape by 2 underage girls. The trial became a media circus, a spectacle that transfixed the nation. His lawyers argued he was a target for extortion. Famously, they suggested he couldn't possibly remember every encounter. In a stunning verdict, Flynn was acquitted, yet the trial cast a permanent shadow over his legacy. Though exonerated, the phrase "in like Flynn" entered the lexicon as a cynical nod to his exploits. Scandals, fights, and financial troubles followed. His body and reputation began to fail him. He flew too close to the sun. The public watched his wings melt. Was he a misunderstood free spirit or a genuine menace? The truth likely sits in the messy middle. He refused to be tamed. He lived on his own terms, for better or worse. Next, a beloved sweetheart whose troubles began before she ever clicked her heels. Judy Garland. We see the girl with the ruby slippers, the powerhouse voice that could break your heart. Pushed onto the stage by a domineering mother, Frances Gumm performed from age 2. Her childhood was boarding houses, vaudeville circuits, and constant pressure to perform. At 13, MGM controlled every aspect of her life, what she ate, how she looked, whom she dated. They put her on a strict diet and plied her with amphetamines and barbiturates to make her sleep. Before Dorothy, a small, desperate act occurred. Young Judy was caught shoplifting, a minor offense for most, but for a rising MGM star, it could have been a catastrophe. The studio swept it under the rug. Shoplifting was less about the item than control, a small, defiant gesture in a life choreographed by others. For a girl whose moves were scripted, this was a silent scream, a momentary claim to agency. The seeds of later struggles, insecurities, the need for approval, and a search for escape were already planted. What began as a small act of rebellion evolved into a battle with addiction and heartbreak. She gave the world so much joy with a price only she paid. Her life became a performance where the biggest role was pretending to be the happy girl everyone wanted. That small stolen moment is a poignant glimpse into a childhood stolen for fame. Next, a man who wore his criminal past like a badge of honor, Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum, the face of film noir, heavy-lidded eyes, laconic drawl, weary cynicism. A drifter and brawler, Mitchum's childhood was marked by tragedy and poverty. His father was killed in a rail yard accident, his mother struggled during the Depression. Expelled at 14, he rode boxcars, slept in hobo jungles, and did whatever work he could. In Savannah, his rebellion caught up. Arrested for vagrancy, he was sentenced to hard labor on a chain gang. Shackled and forced into backbreaking labor, he faked an injury and escaped, ever the survivor. When he reached Hollywood, he carried that baggage, an authenticity directors craved. In 1948, a police sting led to a marijuana arrest. The mugshot became infamous. Photographed in custody, he seemed unbothered. RKO braced for disaster. He pleaded guilty and accepted 60 days, served at a prison farm doing manual labor. The press feasted, but instead of destroying him, the scandal enhanced his rebel image. The things that should have destroyed him became his legend. Audiences loved the bad boy. He wore his experiences like a badge of honor. His next films were box office smashes. He became the ultimate rebel. The bad boy audiences loved, forged by hardship and defiance. Finally, what ties these stories together? The king, the swashbuckler, the sweetheart, the rebel. Before legend came hardship, mugshots, arrests, desperate acts, and studio cover-ups. The path to immortality is rarely straight. They stumbled, they fell, and they rose again. They integrated darkness into art, turning pain into raw authenticity audiences felt. Were you surprised? Did this change how you see their films? Let us know in the comments below. If you want more untold tales, subscribe and hit the bell. There are always more stories beneath the glimmer. Thanks for watching. See you at the movies.